Battalion Commander Major Paul Hackett, killed evacuation Saigon, 1972. Remains never recovered. Second Platoon Leader, Sergeant Larry McRose, missing in action, Vietnam, 1973. Demolition, Sergeant Buck Atwater, killed, Laos, 1980. Sergeant Luther Fry, killed, training maneuvers, Louisiana, 1977. Communications, Sergeant Charles Biddle, missing in action, Honduras, 1981. Heavy Weapons, Sergeant Declan Patrick Coker, killed, Argentina, 1979. 6 soldiers, officially heroes, officially dead. A private army on the wrong side of the law, against one man who's out to stop them. Nick Nolte.
In 1987, director Walter Hill's career had kind of come to a crossroads. Literally. In 1986, he directed a film called Crossroads, inspired by famed blues legend Robert Johnson. Johnson supposedly made a deal with the devil at the crossroads for success. Was Walter Hill perhaps at that very crossroads himself creatively? It would appear so. After his hit film 48 Hours in 1982, starring Nick Nolte and a breakout performance by Eddie Murphy.
You know, you are real stupid for a cop, man. You're following this guy too close.
Yeah, well, most cops are pretty stupid, but since you landed in jail, what the hell does that make you?
Hill had what many call a blank check moment, to make anything he wanted. And with that, he chose to direct the music-driven action spectacle Streets of Fire. Now, Fire is a film that ultimately flopped with audiences upon release, but it's now presently enjoying a reevaluation as a cult classic of sorts. Hill next branched out into comedy with Richard Pryor and John Candy in 1985's Brewster's Millions, which was a commercial success. After that came the aforementioned Crossroads in 1986. Crossroads, like Brewster's, was also a sharp genre shift for Hill. Hill was a student and collaborator with the legendary director Sam Peckinpah. Having grown up admiring Peckinpah, he also started his career as a screenwriter on Sam's film The Getaway. Although not a Western per se, The Getaway was handled as such, yet set in modern times. All the beats are there, and Hill acknowledges that Peckinpah was a huge influence in his life. You could call many, if not all of Hill's films westerns. The Driver and The Warriors are urban westerns, if you will. Horses are traded in for cars, and street gangs become cowboys and Indians.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
In 1980, however, he did make his first legit western in The Long Riders. It was not a big hit then, but like Streets of Fire, it's now very respected as a genre favorite.
We're supposed to be at this coordinate. Either this map is wrong, or all of a sudden I can't find my way around the block.
His follow-up to Long Riders, Southern Comfort, is also fashioned as a western of sorts, but it's also been reshaped to take place in modern times. And from here, he was right back on the urban western front with 48 Hours. After Crossroads, Hill needed to get back to the West somehow. Extreme Prejudice is the film that let him explore his favorite genre in real-time El Paso, Texas, in a classic modern-day Peckinpah shoot-'em-up. But moreover, Prejudice is awake for masculinity. The masculinity of the American male that, much like in Peckinpah's Wild Bunch, has been lying in stasis. Nick Nolte stars as Texas Ranger Jack Benteen, a man who has repressed and bottled up all his emotions. He is not only a man of few words, but a man whose few words do offer up insight into what his inner thoughts might be.
He said his piece. I said mine. We left it at that.
He said anything about me?
Nope.
He is a man whose heroes have long since been dispatched with into the mythic West of cowboys past, where disputes were settled with action, not words and fancy lawyers. He is all alone in an alien world, taught prehistoric methods to handle the chaos of the present day. The story here concerns two divergent plot lines that eventually merge at the end. The first is a love triangle between three childhood friends, Nolte's Jack Benteen became a lawman, and his best friend Cash Bailey, played by Powers Booth, has become the opposite, a drug kingpin, yet they remain friends.
Quit selling dope, Cash. You don't understand. They want it, Jack. They like the stuff.
Although they routinely clash through associates on both sides of the law and the border. Their relationship is literally at a crossroads. And then the third element of this triangle is Maria Conchita Alonso as Sarita, who is torn between both. Jack offers stability, but a slow, boring death of a life, where Cash offers luxury and a little more excitement.
Let's go to Cancun. Get us a little bungalow, swim in that Emerald Sea.
The second plot thread revolves around the zombie unit. These are men that do missions for hire that no one else wants to do because they were supposedly killed in combat.
Everything okay, Sergeant?
Now that they are essentially trained killers with no trace of existence, they are able to become mercenaries for the highest bidder. Their leader, Major Hackett, played wonderfully by Michael Ironside, has called them all together to take down the evil of Cash Bailey. Or are they? Other members of the unit are played by Clancy Brown.
You snuffed a cop?
No, his mother-in-law backed over him by mistake in her LTD, which is why I like Fords.
Matt Mulhern, Dan Tullis Jr., and our old friend Larry B. Scott, and an incredible standout performance by William Forsythe.
Excuse me. Come on, baby, I'm buying pralines and cream for everybody, girl. Hey, don't get insulted. As long as I got a face, you got a place to sit.
Originally penned and conceived by John Milius, who Hill was also a big fan of, the script was acquired by Hill during production of 48 Hours, only to be taken away and retooled for First Blood director Ted Kotchkoff, and later for Jonathan Demme. After several failed attempts, it reverted back into Hill's hands, where he saw it as a tribute to not only the westerns of his youth, but his mentor, Sam Peckinpah. The opening scene with Jack and his partner, mentor Hank, played wonderfully by Rip Torn, may seem like a normal setup action scene, but it sets up just a little bit more.
And you look here, I'm just a poor old dirt farmer. It ain't right, Jack, you trying to take me in. Just trying to make some money at something besides chopping cotton.
The farmer that Jack ends up killing tells him that he's dealing drugs because he has to survive, basically telling him the old ways just don't work anymore.
How much help you think I need, TC? You pushing me hard, Jack, you working me.
A line of dialogue Jack later lays on Sarita when they get into an argument.
You're a man of your word, aren't you? So what's your word?
Don't push me.
Walter Hill has always been interested in class structure in some of his films, and the scene where Cash tries to one-up Jack by saying, "You should get you a helicopter," after Jack just told him a story that he's still living in his grandmother's unfinished house.
I got a feeling the next time we run into each other, we're gonna have a killing.
It's a sign that there's a storm brewing inside both of these men. Men who do not possess the skills to talk things through. The only method of true communication for these people is violence. Booth and Nolte did not get along in real life either.
Shit, Jack! Only thing worse than a politician is a child molester.
After the death of Hank, who ultimately was Jack's father figure, the thought of discussing his feelings with Sarita horrify him. The reemergence of Cash amplifies every emotion in Jack's core.
You want to tell me about it?
Sarita, I don't want to talk about this. I can't talk about it. I gotta do something about it.
Ironically, as Sarita ultimately picks Cash over Jack, she finds that Cash is exactly the same man as Jack. Both shut off emotionally, lacking any way of communicating their actual feelings to anyone.
You don't want to be with me anymore.
No, I didn't say that. I just said we have to give the talk a rest. That's all.
The zombie unit storyline eventually collides with the Jack and Cash storyline. And although all the characters are eventually heading to the same location in Mexico, how they get there emotionally is the real core of this film. As stated earlier, Cash and Jack are two sides of the same repressed coin. You can flip it all you want and you'll get the same results. The zombie unit is a little different, but also the same. The zombie unit took orders because that's what they were trained to do, and the major is someone whom they look up to. He is, in a way, their father figure. And when he betrays them, they are literally fatherless, like Jack and Cash. As in the Wild Bunch, these are all men whose purpose in modern society has ceased to exist. Jack loses his woman, fails at his job, and then his mentor dies. He has little choice but to join the zombie unit as a zombie himself.
You gonna take on all the Uzis by yourself there, sir? Hell, I'm gonna walk in there. We used to be old friends.
The masculine maze of repressed emotions all culminates in an all-out Western showdown in Mexico that doesn't end happily ever after like the traditional Western of these characters' youth. A sad reminder that movies are movies, and reality is dealing with life in a responsible manner. No one taught any of these men this, and as a result, we get a very entertaining yet sad reminder that not much has changed today. A reminder that men mostly still subscribe to the same themes of repressed masculinity, and that usually results in one thing: war. Now, having gotten very existential on your ass, is this a badass action movie? Hell yeah. It's Walter Hill Unleashed. As if he was in movie prison for a while and just got out and said, let's effing go. It works on many, many, many levels. If you want to just watch a kick-ass action movie, this movie kicks ass, and everyone is sweating constantly, which is something we do here in Texas naturally. Make no mistake that Hill is also making a statement about the institutions that created these men.
I think we're heroes. Heroes need a cause, man. Only nowadays everything's so damn messed up. Ain't nobody can see anything clear anymore. So I support my country, man. That's what I got. I got my country and I got my buddies, and that's it.
In the end, all of these men find themselves betrayed by their masters. Collateral damage for a much greater cause: business. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but Hill forces us to think about that as the bullets are flying everywhere. Jerry Goldsmith's score here is otherworldly. This soundtrack is neo-Western, if that's even a thing. It's a synth score, but from a Western point of view. Much like he did with the original Planet of the Apes, Goldsmith uses synth and traditional symphonic layers to create one of the most unique scores of the 80s. Ry Cooder, also one of Walter Hill's frequent collaborators, contributes some of the source music here too. If you can find this soundtrack, just get it. It's amazing. Writer John Milius had been kicking this script around since the 70s, and its original concept was that this whole scenario was a government experiment to see how far Americans could be pushed before they fought back. Milius rethought that ending and pulled it back a little bit to make it more accessible. Supposedly, in addition to the two converging plot lines, there was in fact a third featuring actor Andrew Robinson, which was all but shot but completely cut out of the final film. It was 45 minutes cut from the film. Hill, after viewing the three storylines, decided it was just too much and decided to not just trim it down, but just cut it out entirely to focus on the Jack Cash and Zombie Unit storylines. On a personal note, I saw this film at least 5 times at the movies when it came out. I really liked it. Now, I didn't understand anything thematically that I just talked about to you as a teenager, but something about this film called to me. Nolte's character was like my granddad. He was a proud guy who, like Jack, repressed his emotions. But still, he was my hero. And that's what heroes of that generation did. They held it in.
I'm just gonna go in and have a beer with him.
Shit sounds reasonable. Just sit down and talk to him about how you shot his brother night before last.
My parents love Westerns. And like most teenagers, I was into whatever my parents were not into. So in a way, Extreme Prejudice was my way into Westerns more than, say, John Ford's The Searchers, which was force-fed to me on a regular basis. The characters in Extreme Prejudice seemed real to me, especially since I'm from Texas and Cash Bailey and Jack Bentine didn't seem like movie cliches to me. They were like real people I knew.
Extreme Prejudice.
Oh, and one last thing. The title, Extreme Prejudice. What does that mean? Well, I don't want to ruin that for you, but if you've seen Apocalypse Now, which was also written by John Milius.
Terminate. Terminate with extreme prejudice.